Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's taken,
That
sorry.
one's not there, is it? You're all right, yeah, okay.
Yours at that side. Yes.
You can see exactly.
Yeah, that 8:55, I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning, but it's coming on the road, it's black.
That may be easier. Little sort of undulations on that. Well, it's swaying. That may
The mate is Ian, so without further ado we're heading over to Liverpool to pick up any guests that are waiting there. We've got a bit of an empty space, so we're going to just go for it and cross the river. You can see it's absolutely wonderful when we have a flood tide and you see vessels moving. And because, you know, these large tankers do depend upon the tide, we don't see a lot of traffic up at this end of the river most of the time. But you saw the Stolt passing by, the Seagull, and that is a regular visitor here to the River Mersey, plies its trade regularly. The large tanker carrying heavy oil is headed for Tranmere Terminal, where the Stolt will go into the Manchester Ship Canal up to the refinery at Stanlow. So lots of stuff happening here and all the little yachts bobbing about. It's quite a task to get through them. So without further ado, we're going to head towards Liverpool.
Traffic down there.
It is, yeah.
Big boat, yeah.
Chips and fish. Oh, that's the wrong way around that side. Well, it's fish and chips, not chips and fish. Perhaps it's telling you that you get a load of chips and a fish finger. Maybe. But yeah, that is definitely the wrong way around.
Reverse life rafts, 860 passengers. The crew will be on hand to give instructions and advice. Please note that smoking is not permitted on any part of the vessel, and we also ask you not to stand on the seats or sit on the ship's rails. We advise you to remain seated throughout the journey, particularly when arriving and leaving terminals, and we ask cyclists to alight after all foot passengers have left the vessel.
Please be aware that at certain times of the day, the Linkspan passenger bridges will be at a steep angle. This time of day is called low water. You may have difficulty if you're elderly or infirm. Please ask for help if required and take care. The low water times are displayed adjacent to the servery on the main deck of this vessel.
My goodness, it's all happening here today. The Man and Anne, the hydrofoil to the Isle of Man, she's just left her moorings and she is heading out now to the bay. We have a couple of the tall sailing ships in front of us that are at the cruise liner facility, and they are also waiting to slip their moorings and go down to the starting point, which is near to the Liverpool Echo Arena. Our sister ship, the Snowdrop, is waiting to pick up the rest of the passengers, but there's so many small vessels around the river today, we just have to wait our turn to move. So without further ado,
I think you're fine with me.
Must have said it. No. I bet you didn't know.
We're turning round, I think.
Went straight down there, but there now. We're turning round, we should you'll see it in a second. Lovely scene, lovely. Brilliant.
That's not how the place over here, that's not that way.
Seen the dazzle ship?
They're pulling the sails up there. It's going down. Pulling the sails up. Oh yeah. That's what it is.
Stay with you. The vessel to our right-hand side, the Atlia, was built in 1984, and it has a Spanish flag. You might recognize it. And this is a stay-sail schooner. It carries 15 trainees and has a crew of 9 people. It's eye-catching, and it's with its red painting. A two-mast Atalia is a multilingual vessel. Throughout the summer, it sails through the Mediterranean, and it gives opportunity for sailors, experienced or not experienced, all levels of seamanship. In the winter time, the vessel is berthed at the Maritime Museum in Bilbao.
I look alright, but I'm
The two-masted vessel to our right-hand side, just as we see it, she's the Juan de la Gara. She was built in 1983 and again registered in Spain. She's a Bermuda-class schooner. She carries 9 trainees and a crew of 3 permanents. So again, inspired by the Cutty Sark racers, Cutty Sark, the whiskey people who sponsored the very first of the tall ship races in 1956. A young group of sailors rather fancied getting a boat, and so they actually have acquired a boat, and they are really impressed by the philosophy of the racing and the sail training experience. they decided to charter and race themselves and received sponsorship from the Corunna Port Authority. But moving forward, you see that a couple of the vessels have their rigging opened up. And this vessel at our right-hand side is our sister ship, the Razzle Dazzle, painted by the artist Sir Peter Blake, who was more famous for painting the cover of the album of the Sergeant Pepper. This is a tribute to the 1418 war, when the vessels were disguised by zigzagging the paint. But in the opportunity for young people to be developed and to mature and learn about teamwork and friendship, of course, this is a non-profit making organization. We have one of the tugs ploughing through the water here. Life goes on whether there is a sale of vessels or not. It's still the everyday business of the river to keep moving. And it's just wonderful to see so much activity on the waters. As we're passing Cammell Laird, I'm sure you have seen Fort Victoria being fitted out there, but the vessel in the ship shed, you try and say that when you've had a drink. That is, of course, what was to be Boaty MacBoatface, but they wouldn't have it. And so now she is the Sir David Attenborough. And she's moving further and further out of the shed as she is moving forward, and they're clearing the slipway for her. So watch this space. It's going to be a real thrill to see that vessel moving. The good old Brocklebank there, plying her trade here on the River Mersey for a lifetime, it seems. And there she is dressed out in her flags, which is very nice tribute to this sail training regatta that we have here. Now over to the right-hand side, we have a brig. It's the sailing ship, the Royalist, and its date is 2014. She has a Union flag. She was built in 1971 in Cowes in the Isle of Wight to the design of Colin Moody. Royalist is owned and operated by the Sea Cadet Association, and the ship provides about 800 cadet berths each year. Terminal, we have the green cupola of Birkenhead's Town Hall, and the tall tower here to your left is the ventilation shaft for the River Mersey Road Tunnel, which opened in 1934. The building itself is a masterpiece of brickwork and craftsmanship. The design is Art Deco, which reminds us that the Mersey Tunnel opened in 1934. When it opened, it was the largest and the longest underwater road tunnel in the world. Just on our right-hand side here, we have the Royal Naval Reserve vessels. They ply their trade regularly here in the River Mersey, and they are housed up at the Brunswick dock. vessels are used for research. They test the movements of the sill into place, but the reconstruction of these Victorian engineering items is very difficult indeed. Passing the waterfront area, we have this magnificent view. I guess the people up in the Radio City Tower are having a good time looking at the river. What a beautiful day we have been blessed with today for this particular event. I can tell you it was a whole lot different when we hosted the Battle of the Atlantic. You couldn't see across the river for the mist and the rain. It was a dreadful day. But again, Liverpool triumphed. It was one of the best occasions. The Battle of the Atlantic was, of course, masterminded from the port here and the significance that our city played. Perhaps you noticed a little earlier that the Challenger, the
Find out and count eight.
Get us all clear so you can film it for the news.
Thank you.
It was similar to this, and it was part of the Round the World Clipper race. The Clippers, of course, are very special to us, and they are regular events that come in and out of Liverpool Marina. Looking over to the right-hand side, you'll see the Sandon Waterworks. Now, this is the reason why our river is now so clean, because in the past, the waste from Manchester was brought down to the River Mersey, to the estuary, and it was dumped untreated into the bay. Now we have a pipeline that brings the waste to this waterworks over to the right-hand side. If you see it advertised to come and visit it, it really is most interesting visit. And in the past we have taken tours to the waterworks. You also see that we have some wind turbines. Now actually, the Mersey docks and harbour board, as it was at one time, they were very slow to adopt this method of harnessing the energy from the River Mersey. And so first 6 turbines were introduced, and the profit of it is sold to the national grid. This has resulted in a very profitable investment, and the profits from it is used to enhance the walkways on both sides of the River Mersey. Just on the skyline, as you look beyond the waterworks, you see the stadium. You see the main stand of the Liverpool Football Club. Now, as we move forward and you look over to the right-hand side, you'll see one of the major industries that has developed along the banks of the Mersey. It is an industry that started really the scrap metal, which is divided into ferrous and non-ferrous materials. This material is then shipped out to China, to southern France and to southern Spain. And what you're looking at there is probably your next washing machine or cooker, and perhaps even your new car. So that is what the business is over there. Of Good Hope they came, and because they're on a pontoon, once again to get them ashore we had to wait on the tide to get the level before sliding them ashore, and these will greatly enhance the speed of the turnaround of the vessels that come in. So for our guests who are celebrating 50 years, 30 years today, and to Tom O'Leary, who's come from Cork, we thank you very much for being in touch with us and allowing us to give you a shout out today. It's absolutely wonderful to see so many people out and about every day. day that is blessed with sunshine, it does bring the people to the riverside, and it is marvelous to see. Looking to the left-hand side, we see the lighthouse, which was built in 1820, and of course the fort, which was built as a protection to stop the armada coming up the River Mersey. It has never fired a gun in anger, only a test one that ended up in somebody's garden in Seaforth, which wasn't exactly what was intended, but at least it proved the gun worked, eh? When we're looking up into the sky, we see some light aircraft, but you also see a number of drones this morning when the ships were coming out of the locks. We could see that the drones were operating and taking aerial photographs, and it seems a new and wonderful way of coping. Brighton on this northwest coast, just like the Brighton on the south coast, to compete with the holiday businesses that were growing at that time. Unfortunately for James, it never quite hit the heights that he had hoped for, but for local people, the ferry boat to New Brighton was one of the biggest treats. But looking at the peninsula here, you see the dome of the Church of St. Peter's and Paul. And when sailors were coming up from the Menai Straits and coming up here, this green cupola was known as the Dome of Home for those sailors as they come around the lighthouse and into the River Mersey. Seeing the waterfront buildings, they know they could be nowhere else but Liverpool. Although we were not in a position to see the Lord Nelson for more than a few minutes across the water, the Lord Nelson, built in 1985, it's a Bark 3 quality vessel. It has 42 trainees on board and a staff of 8 crew members. It really is a most handsome vessel and is named for the British Admiral. This vessel is one of only 2 worldwide that is designed to take both able and disabled passengers. For over the past 30 years, it has taken 30,000 people, 12,000 of which were disabled, 5,000 of which were wheelchair bound. What an opportunity for these young people to have this ability to go out and just have a normal life, or at least for a short period. The Sail Training Association, with which our city has very strong links, it has since 1956 been proactive in giving young people the opportunity to develop and to mature, to mix with international students like themselves, to make friendships that last for many, many years. As you look over to the docklands, you see one of the big industries, apart from scrap metal, we have the aggregates, and you can see over to the right the piles of stone that are milled and refined, and of course for the building trades. And again, this is a very, very popular and prosperous Formby just over to the right hand side, and of course we'll be coming to the Crosby Beach, where we have the Iron Men, the art installation designed by Anthony Gormley. First of all, it was in Norway, in Stavanger. It has been moved about, but once it was here, we adopted these Iron Men, and they have become a focal point of the seaside here. Although we started off with 100 men, now we have 84, because the ones that were lifted, they have gone for analysis to see how they have eroded, the barnacles tested and so on. And this will give research an opportunity to see just what is going on in the waters. It is proposed that because, I wonder if Paula will now apply to have a go at it. She might have found her sea legs now and wants to try something else. But just looking around us, how fortunate we are to be here alongside the River Mersey. People enjoying the beaches, enjoying the views out west. As we're further out into the waters here, you can see that the sails are billowing. This is the kind of weather that they need when it's very still. They're not able to display as you see them now, but heading forward, you can see ahead of us there are 3 of the larger vessels heading out towards the Liverpool Bay. Looking out to the left on the skyline, you can see the gas station out there in the bay, the wind turbines. This is Bilbo area here, just here on the left. And again, these energy being harnessed, all sent to the national grid, very profitable for the area. Just here to the right-hand side as we go forward, this is the vessel of Brian Baru. Again, sail training. Bon voyage and a safe journey and good luck with the race.
I got that picture when you froze.
Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar and sugar.